Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into an intriguing topic, one that really makes you think. Have you ever been visited by spirits without even realizing it? Yes, it could have happened, and often the signs are right there, we just don't know how to recognize them. But don't worry, the goal here isn't to scare anyone. The idea is to demystify this subject and show that spiritual visits can actually be much more common and natural than we think. We'll explore how to tell if this has happened to you, the different types of spiritual visits, how mediumship ties into all of this, and of course, what to do when you sense a spiritual presence. Oh, and before we really get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any new videos. And leave a comment below. Have you ever had any kind of spiritual experience? What was it like? I'd love to hear about your stories. When we talk about spiritual visits, many people immediately think of something scary or mysterious. But here's the thing, according to Spiritism, these visits are much more natural and common than they seem. Spirits are always around us, interacting with us, even if we can't see or touch them. Spiritist doctrine explains that the spiritual world and the physical world coexist, and in reality, we are all spirits temporarily living in material bodies. Have you ever thought about that? These visits can happen in different ways and for various reasons. A loved one who has already passed away might come near you to offer comfort, give advice, or simply be close out of affection. But it's also possible for an unfamiliar spirit to appear, either seeking help or trying to resolve something left unfinished from their time on Earth. This might sound unsettling at first, but most of these visits are not dangerous at all. On the contrary, they are often moments of connection and learning. So, how can we tell when this is happening? Often, the signs of a spiritual visit are subtle and easy to miss, especially if you're not paying attention. It might be that sudden feeling of not being alone, even when you're in an empty room. You know, that chill that comes out of nowhere? Or a sudden change in temperature, like a cool breeze, even when the weather doesn't seem to explain it. These are common signs of a spiritual presence. Some people even feel a slight pressure in the air, as if the atmosphere has become heavier or sometimes lighter. Another moment when these visits are more likely to happen is during sleep. According to Spiritism, while our physical body rests, our spirit becomes freer to interact with other planes. Have you ever had a vivid dream that felt more real than usual? Well, it's possible that these dreams are actually spiritual encounters. During sleep, it's common for spirits to come closer to talk, offer advice, or simply spend time with us. And here's something interesting. Not all of these visits are from people we know. Sometimes, they're spirits in need who come seeking help. This is something worth reflecting on. If you're more spiritually sensitive, you might attract spirits who need guidance. But that doesn't mean you're expected to solve their problems on your own. Prayer and elevating your thoughts are powerful tools to offer help without getting directly involved. So, let me ask you, have you ever felt like someone was beside you, even when you couldn't see anyone? Or maybe you've had that sudden chill or a shift in the energy around you. These could be subtle signs of a spiritual visit. And the interesting thing is, the more attention we pay to these signs, the better we get at recognizing and dealing with them in a calm and natural way. Here's something to think about. Next time you feel something unusual with no logical explanation, take a moment to stop and observe. What is your body trying to tell you? What message is the environment giving you? Often, the answer might lie in those small sensations we tend to overlook. And if that's the case, remember that there's no need to be afraid. After all, spiritual presence is part of our journey, and understanding this can bring great comfort. Now that we understand what spiritual visits are, let's talk about the signs that indicate a spirit might be nearby. This is important because we often go through these experiences without paying much attention. And trust me, the signs are plenty. They show up both physically and emotionally. I'll share some of the most common ones, and afterward, you can tell me if you've experienced anything like this. First, the physical signs. Sudden chills, goosebumps, or even that warm sensation that comes out of nowhere with no clear reason. These could all be indicators of a spirit's presence. Our bodies, being made of energy, naturally react to spiritual influences. Have you ever been alone and felt like someone else was there with you? even though you couldn't see or hear anything. That's a type of perception many people report when a spirit is around. Sometimes the energy of a spirit can be so intense that your body responds automatically, with chills or even a slight pressure on your skin. Another interesting physical sign is the change in the way the air feels. It might sound strange, but the environment around us also reacts to the presence of spirits. Some people describe feeling the air become heavier, like there's a change in atmospheric pressure. Others feel the opposite, an unusual lightness, as if the room has become brighter. This could be a reflection of the energy of the spirit nearby. Now, besides the physical signs, there are also psychic signs. Often, a spiritual presence can manifest through sudden mood shifts. Has this ever happened to you? You're feeling calm, and suddenly, a deep sadness, nostalgia, or even unexpected joy washes over you. This could be related to the energy that the spirit carries, which you're picking up on. Since everything in the universe is made of energy, these emotions might be a form of communication, even if you aren't fully aware of it. And there's more: intuition. Have you ever been focused on something and suddenly an idea, memory, or thought completely unrelated to what you were doing pops into your head? That could be a spirit trying to communicate. They often come close to pass on a message, give advice, or alert us to something we've been ignoring. These intuitive thoughts often come out of nowhere, and we don't always give them the attention they deserve. Now, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever had a strong intuition, like someone was guiding you? Or perhaps a sudden feeling, good or bad, that seemed to have no explanation? You might have sensed a spirit's presence without even realizing it. The cool part is that the more we pay attention to these signs, the better we get at understanding what's happening around us. Oh, and here's an important tip. If you feel like a spirit is visiting you, try to stay calm and elevate your thoughts. Fear or insecurity can attract less positive energies. But when you stay serene and keep your vibration high, the experience is usually much more peaceful and, often, enlightening. Have you ever had a strong intuition, like someone was giving you advice? Leave a comment below and share your experience. When we talk about spiritual visits, it's impossible not to touch on the role of mediumship, right? After all, it's through this heightened sensitivity that many people can clearly perceive the presence of spirits. According to Spiritist doctrine, we all have some degree of mediumship. This means that anyone, to a greater or lesser extent, can pick up on the spiritual vibrations around them. But of course, some people have this ability more developed, which allows them to become true channels of communication between the physical and spiritual realms. So, how does mediumship come into play during a spiritual visit? Well, mediums are those who have a heightened sensitivity, which makes it easier for them to perceive spirits more clearly. This can manifest in different ways. Some people have what's called clairvoyance, which is the ability to see spirits. Others have clairaudience, which is the ability to hear voices from the spiritual plane. And then there are those who feel the presence of spirits through intuition, emotions, or even physical sensations, as we've already discussed. And here's something interesting. Often, spirits manifest themselves because they find in these people a more accessible channel to communicate. If a spirit wants to deliver a message or needs help, they might seek someone with this sensitivity to facilitate the contact. It's as if mediumship is a bridge that connects two worlds, the material and the spiritual. Now, you might be wondering, but if I'm not a medium, can I still notice these visits? The answer is yes. Even if you don't have highly developed mediumship, you can still pick up on the spiritual energies and presences around you. You know that sudden intuition or that vivid dream that feels so real. Yep, those are also forms of mediumship, even if they're less intense. Mediumship can manifest in many ways, and each person has their unique way of perceiving things. One important thing to remember is that mediumship isn't a supernatural gift or something out of the ordinary. It's actually a natural ability that can be developed and refined over time with practice and study. Spiritism teaches that, like any other skill, mediumship can be trained. The more you dedicate yourself to understanding and working with it, the clearer your contact with the spiritual plane becomes. It's no wonder many mediums dedicate much of their lives to study and practice, striving to strengthen that connection. And if you feel that you have heightened sensitivity, it's important to learn how to handle it in a balanced way. This means, for example, taking care of your energy, practicing prayer and keeping your thoughts elevated. After all, the spirits that come near us vibrate on the same frequency we emit. So, the more balanced you are, the more positive your interaction with the spiritual world will be. Here's a practical tip. If you feel that your mediumship is becoming more sensitive and you want to understand how to handle it better, look for a spiritist center or a study group. There, you can find guidance and learn how to develop your abilities in a safe and balanced way. And remember, mediumship is a blessing, but it requires responsibility and knowledge. Have you ever experienced something that made you think your mediumship might be developing? Maybe a sudden intense feeling or a message that came out of nowhere, with no explanation? Keep an eye on these signs. They might be more important than you think. One question many people are curious about is, what kinds of spirits can visit us? This is a fascinating question that helps us better understand the nature of spiritual visits. According to Spiritist doctrine, there are different levels of evolution among spirits, and these levels determine their intentions and how they approach us. The first type of spirit that might visit us are familiar spirits. These are spirits of people we've interacted with in this life or in past lives. Often, a loved one who has passed on may appear during times of difficulty to offer comfort, protection, or simply to be near out of love and care. Who hasn't felt the presence of a grandparent, a mother, or even a dear friend who has passed? These visits are usually very comforting because they carry a sense of love and protection. They remind us that, even though we are physically separated, the spiritual bond remains strong. On the other hand, there are spirits in need, who are those that haven't yet found peace in the spiritual realm. These spirits might have experienced a sudden death or still carry dense emotions like resentment, guilt, or regret. These spirits often approach sensitive people seeking help or trying to resolve unresolved issues from their past. It's important to know that when this happens, they aren't trying to harm us, but rather are searching for a way to find the peace they haven't yet reached. Sometimes, the presence of these spirits can be felt as a sense of heaviness, melancholy, or restlessness. Have you ever felt this? As if the energy around you was filled with sadness or anxiety? This could be the approach of a spirit in need. In these situations, prayer and elevating your thoughts are essential in helping these spirits calm down and find their way toward the light. And we can't forget about spirit guides or spiritual mentors. These are more evolved spirits who accompany us throughout life to guide and protect us. You know those moments when you make a tough decision and feel an inner peace, like someone was guiding you? That might be the presence of a spiritual mentor, showing you the best path. These spirits are always nearby, even if we don't notice them, and they appear especially in moments of great need to guide us to a higher path or alert us to imminent danger. It's important to remember that not all spiritual visits are negative. In fact, many of these presences are here to help, protect, and guide us. Learning to recognize the intention behind a spiritual presence can bring us a great sense of peace. And what makes the difference is our own energy. When we're in a good place energetically, we attract spirits that vibrate on that same positive frequency. On the other hand, if we're filled with negative thoughts, we might attract spirits that are on a lower vibration. So here's a tip. Whenever you sense a spiritual presence, try to perceive the nature of that visit. What do you feel? Peace, comfort, or maybe a heavier sensation? This can give you clues about the type of spirit that's nearby and, in turn, the best way to handle the situation. And how about you? Have you ever had an experience where you felt protected or guided by a spirit? Have you ever sensed that loving presence that gave you strength during a tough time? These experiences are more common than we think, and understanding that we're always accompanied by spirits can bring a deep sense of peace and security. Now that we've talked about what spiritual visits are, how to recognize them, and the types of spirits that might visit us, an important question remains: what should you do when you sense the presence of a spirit? For many people, this is the most challenging part because we don't always know how to react to these experiences, which can be intense and, at times, a bit uncomfortable, right? The first thing I always say is, don't panic. In most cases, spiritual visits are harmless and often carry an intention of affection, protection, or even learning. As we've discussed, familiar spirits might approach to comfort us, and spiritual guides are always nearby to guide us. In other words, their presence is usually something positive. So, it's important to stay calm and understand that these visits are part of our spiritual journey. One of the best ways to handle these presences is through prayer. When you pray, you raise your vibration and create a sort of protective shield around you, preventing spirits with heavier energies from getting too close. Additionally, prayer has the power to bring light to spirits in need. If you sense that a spirit's presence is bothering you, offering a prayer for peace and light can help guide that spirit to a higher state. This simple gesture of compassion can transform the energy around you. Another important thing is watching your thoughts and emotions. As we've mentioned before, spirits connect with our energy, and that means negative thoughts and emotions, like fear, anger, or deep sadness, can attract spirits vibrating at that same frequency. That's why it's essential to maintain emotional balance. It's not always easy, I know, but the more you practice controlling your feelings and thoughts, the more you'll notice that your surroundings become lighter and more protected. If a spiritual presence causes you significant discomfort, or if this happens frequently, it's a good idea to seek help at a spiritist center. There, you'll find mediums and practitioners who are prepared to guide you and help you understand what's going on. You can also receive passes, which are a form of energetic cleansing, and participate in talks and studies that will help you stay balanced and better understand the spiritual world. These centers also provide assistance to spirits who are still suffering, guiding them toward peace. A practical tip I like to share is about taking care of your environment. Keeping your home in harmony, with elevated thoughts and positive vibes, can help create a more protected space. This includes playing music that raises the energy, keeping plants that purify the space, and of course, maintaining physical and energetic cleanliness. A common practice is lighting incense or using essential oil diffusers, like lavender, which helps create a lighter, more inviting atmosphere for positive energies. And if you feel like you need extra spiritual support, ask for help from your spiritual guides and mentors. They are always by your side, ready to assist, but it's important to remember that free will is respected. So, to receive their help, you need to be open and ask for their intervention. Say a heartfelt prayer with an open mind and trust that their support will come. Now, tell me, have you ever been in a situation where you needed to seek spiritual help? Or perhaps you sensed the presence of a spirit and weren't quite sure how to respond? Share your story with me, because talking about these experiences can be a big step toward better understanding what's happening around us. So, what did you think of this conversation? We covered a lot of important topics today, didn't we? I believe this discussion about spiritual visits helps us see the invisible world in a calmer and less frightening way. Understanding that spirits are around us and that they may visit us is part of our spiritual reality, even if we don't notice it all the time. These visits can bring us comfort, learning, and even protection. And, of course, realizing that we are connected to the spiritual world is an important step in our growth as spiritual beings. The key, as we've discussed, is maintaining balance. Everything starts within us. When we're at peace, we radiate that peace around us and create a favorable environment to receive spiritual visits with good intentions. On the other hand, if we get caught up in negative emotions, we might attract spirits vibrating at that same frequency. That's why praying, meditating, and keeping an eye on our thoughts and emotions are essential practices to maintain the spiritual connection in a positive way. Another important point is not to fear the unknown. Spirituality is always by our side, and most of the time, the spirits that visit us come to help or seek help. So, instead of viewing these visits with fear or apprehension, we can see them as opportunities for learning and growth, both for ourselves and for the spirits. Remember, the spiritual world is an extension of our physical world. We are all connected and constantly exchanging energy. And, of course, if you feel like you need guidance, don't hesitate to seek help. Spiritist centers are there for exactly that, to provide clarity, assistance, and guidance. There's nothing wrong with asking for support when you feel the need. In fact, it shows that you are open to understanding and growing spiritually. So, here's our final reflection. How have you been managing the energies around you? Are you able to notice the subtle signs of spiritual visits? And more importantly, are you taking care of your own emotional and spiritual balance? These are important questions because, in the end, It's through self-awareness that we can better handle the invisible and the visits that may come our way. I hope this conversation has helped you understand a bit more about spiritual visits and how to deal with them. If you still have any questions, or if you'd like to share a personal experience, leave a comment. Let's keep walking this path of learning and evolution together, one step at a time. And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends. The more people are open to understanding and exploring spirituality, the more we evolve as a whole. And of course, tell me, which part of this video impacted you the most? I'd love to hear what resonated with you. See you next time, and may the light always be with you.